Hey everybody, welcome back to doing camera layout and multiplane layout in Harmony. In this video I'm going to specifically be looking at the camera movement that needs to happen throughout this scene. So if we look at the animatic that's being placed above our camera, you'll see that the pan happens from right to left across the screen and then stops. So we need to make sure that that camera motion is going to happen in this layout. First thing I need to do is actually add a camera to the scene. I'm going to go here to the plus on my timeline and I'm going to select camera. That's going to open up a new layer called camera. But we don't want to animate directly onto the camera layer itself. We want to give the camera a peg and animate separately on that peg. So I'm going to select my camera layer and I'm going to press the add peg button here in my timeline. And that'll automatically add a peg to my camera. This is the layer I'm going to animate on, not the camera layer. I'm going to make sure that my animation man is turned on, and I'm going to be using the transform tool to move my camera. However, you can also use the advanced animation tools to move the camera, rotate it, or scale it. So before I start, I'm going to take a good look at what's happening in my animatic. I think the starting point for our camera is okay. It's starting more or less where it's starting here in the animatic. So what we can do is click on the first frame of our camera peg and put in a keyframe just so that we can keep this position. Now I'm going to drag my timeline along and I'm going to look for the point where the camera starts to move. And there it is. So on this frame, just before the movement starts, I'm going to put another keyframe. Then I'm going to drag my slider until the camera movement stops. And just on that keyframe where it stops moving, again on the camera peg, I'm going to place another keyframe. Then I'm going to, again making sure my camera peg is selected, and using my shift arrow keys on my keyboard, I'm going to move the camera across to the point where it stops in the animatic above, which is actually pretty close to the end of our background design. So now we have our two key points. So I'm going to go to the first frame where the camera is supposed to start moving. So in my case this is frame 58. And I'm going to put in a motion interpolation. You can do this by clicking the button on your timeline view toolbar or pressing Ctrl K on your keyboard. And you'll see that the camera automatically moves for us. This camera movement is a little bit boring though, so we can make it look a little bit more interesting by giving it some eases. So I'm going to select my first keyframe of my camera animation and I'm going to click on this button in my timeline view toolbar. Set ease for multiple parameters. I'm going to click on this toolbar and it's going to bring up a graph that we can use to create a little bit of ease in and ease out on our camera movement. You can see here a little handlebar that you can pull out to create a slower movement into a faster movement. And this bar can only move to the right of my frame. So you can use this, or you can actually put in a value on your right time ratio. In this case I'm going to put in 30. You can apply, or you can apply it and go straight to the next frame, which is what I'm going to do. This takes us to the last frame in our camera animation. So I'm going to give it a left time ratio of 30 here as well. Now we've got a very slight S shape happening in our ease, and that should be enough to make the camera look quite nice. So I'm going to apply this. I'm going to close my set ease for multiple parameters. And now when I play the camera movement, you'll see that it's a lot nicer to look at than it was before. And that's how you set up your camera movement for layout and animation in Toon Boom Harmony. Check out the next video to see how to set up your multiplaning.